Good morning, good life. Welcome back to another episode of Detail Therapy. In this one, we're going to be chatting about business success. What does it take? And how do we do it without the dreaded ego? I'm going to be sharing a little conversation that I had on the Ask Gary V show with the one and only Gary Vaynerchuk. It's time for some detail therapy so that you can uncover the path to going after the life you want.
She's an award-winning YouTuber and best-selling author, obsessed with helping you go after the life you want.
I like it.
Join her as she seeks out the stories and strategies
Give me every little detail.
of extraordinary people who found success.
I'm going to get emotional. Oh my God.
Welcome to Detail Therapy with Amy Landino.
This is a really fun one. We're going to be taking this back a bit to the good old 2019. Wow, weren't we so naive in 2019? So just FYI, this was recorded in December 2019. So if anything sounds a bit out of context, it's because we did not know we were about to go into a pandemic. But I'm very pleased to be able to share this conversation. I had the opportunity to sit down with my speaking agent, the one and only Gary Vaynerchuk from Vayner Speakers, Vayner Media, Empathy Wines, all of the things. If you're unfamiliar with him, you have been hiding underneath a rock when it comes to business self-development. So one thing to keep in mind about Gary is he is being shared on my show, and my show, we try to keep those naughty words down to a minimum just so your kiddos aren't listening to those things. So we're going to clean this one up a little bit. So if you hear a lot of bumping in terms of the audio and edits and things like that, it's just because we did a call-in show and people just share their passion, and sometimes it includes a couple of four-letter words. So just wanted to give you that heads up, but we should have everything cleaned up for you so you have no problem listening to this. But it was just such a good conversation in general because you're going to hear a lot about perception, a lot about giving yourself permission, and a lot about figuring out your why and who you're talking to. Because when you are truly a success in business, it's because you've been able to put ego aside. In most cases, it may not seem that way to the rest of the world, and grappling with that is so big, and you're going to hear a lot of conversation around that in this. So much to unpack here. Hey, by the way, if you're new here, hello. My name is Amy Landino. I'll be your host. I'm a success coach and founder of Gatlu House, a resource dedicated to helping you go after the life you want. You can see all of our work, including the show notes for this podcast, by visiting detailtherapy.online. If you want to watch this whole interview, the link will be in there as well. And of course, we will link to Gary and all of his fun stuff if you would like to continue to be motivated by this force in the business world. But for now, let's go ahead and flip the switch on over to my conversation, what seems like yesterday, but was so long ago, with Gary Vaynerchuk.
Hey guys, it's Gary Vaynerchuk, episode 331 of the Ask Gary V show. Actually, we had a pretty hardcore Team Gary meeting the other day where we're actually going to be rebranding this show. So a lot of changes in store. So one of the last Ask Gary V shows in this format. Are we keeping the Ask Gary V and it's just going to be me asking questions? I don't even remember how we netted out. Anyway, Amy, a ton of shit is coming, as always. And Amy is back in the building. I'm going to allow her to introduce herself to the Vayner Nation in a minute, talk about this lovely book. But I think this is one of the last things I'm doing content-wise for the year. So happy holidays, happy New Year, healthy to everybody. The new decade is upon us. And it's really good to see you, Amy.
It's great to see you, Gary. Thanks for having me.
Why don't you tell everybody who you are and a little bit about what we're doing here?
Sure. My name is Amy Landino, and I'm a Vayner speaker. Isn't that the only thing that matters?
This is true. Actually, fun fact, Amy is part of Vayner Speakers, is a agency we have where we rep me and I think 10 maybe or so other exclusive artists, and then others. And Amy is part of the roster, one of the first people we reached out to.
I am so grateful for that, by the way.
Have you been enjoying it?
Oh my gosh, are you kidding?
Let's shoot it.
What a team.
I want to shit on Zach and Steve and those guys if we can.
The day he's out.
Have they been good?
They've been fantastic.
It's been,
it was at the end of the first year, I was like, so you guys are like cool with me staying on, right? And they're like, oh yeah, we're just getting started. I mean, it's only gotten better as we've gone along. You guys sent me to Saudi Arabia for crying out loud.
I heard. That's awesome.
But I think what most people know me for is a YouTube channel called AMYTV. I help women going after the life that they want. I also have a podcast called Detail Therapy. So speaking, I just wrote my second book, Good Morning, Good Life. And
when did this come out?
Just a couple weeks ago.
Self-published or?
Self-published, baby.
And how's that game been?
It's a lot of work from the outset, but it's so worth it in the end. I mean, it's just like, I don't have to deal with anybody. It's just my book.
In a world where like so many people are producing content, you know, what you just said is like something I think about. Like there's just so much. What do you think has helped you succeed?
At the end of the day, and it goes back to the conversation of should you publish traditionally? Should you do a lot of things? There's so many different options, but that's the best part about it. And also the worst part about it. It's paralyzing. I think the thing that's made me succeed is the ability to make a decision. I can make a decision and just decide to do it. And whether it's the best thing I could have done or I could have done something better, it's fine. You reflect on it, you move on from it, you go. If I decide to self-publish and I'm like, should have done something, who cares? Like whatever progress is going to, no, I don't, not at all. Because I know that I can just do it again. I can just try something else. I can just go a different way. And there's actually not a lot of things I can think of where I'm like, oh man, made the wrong move. Because I just decide and go.
Yeah, I like that. I'm a big fan of that. We're going to take some calls. I decided quite a bit on this episode. So please put it, what are we live on Facebook?
Facebook Live, put questions in there.
Okay. And LinkedIn? All right, cool. LinkedIn, Facebook, please put your phone number in the comments and we will call you, as we're going to make the majority of the show call in because I like that and I want to do that. And we've had Amy in the past, so you can Google us. We've jammed a bunch over the years. So there's plenty of backstory and things of that nature. So what are you hyped about? What are you excited about? What's on your mind? Like, what are you thinking about these days?
I don't know. I actually kind of had a tangent thought moment this morning just because I don't think I've ever sat down and fully chatted with you in sort of this kind of format, but there's such a misconception because you've been really kind to me. You've been great to my career, my family, but a lot of people have approached me and gone, how are you best friends with Gary Vaynerchuk? And I'm just like, well, good work observes good work. And it ends up being the best example ever when I'm talking to people about mentorship. Because everybody has this, not everybody, but a lot of people have the wrong idea that you have to literally be on the phone with somebody, talk to somebody every day, every week for X number of minutes in order for them to mentor you. But that's never been the case with you being my mentor. I read your books, I watched your videos, I listened to podcasts. You told me what to do all along, but it's how many conversations do we need to have in between? Yep. And that was a moment I had this morning. I was like, I wish more people knew that I don't have to be your best friend to take a good example from you. And I hope that that's what is happening with people with me.
That's what you mean with that perspective, people think that our relationship, that they need to have that same level of access to me to get the benefit.
They need, any access. And it looks different than it actually is. And it's because of someone's ability to execute, not what someone's actual access is.
I agree. I think it has a lot to do with the first thing that you spoke about, which is your ability to not to dwell helps you so much.
Yeah.
People second guess themselves beforehand and after, and that's where all the energy goes. They're beating themselves up. It's a game of insecurity versus self-esteem. This is one big game of that. No matter how many different cartoons or platforms or ways I package the story, it's very, very, very important for people to understand the way they think about themselves is an uncomfortable variable to what's going to happen.
Absolutely. I've been kind of having this conversation with my community lately about guilt because it comes in a lot of different ways. It's packaged in a lot of different ways. You can do it to yourself, but it can also be somebody else trying to make you feel guilty. And you'll actually find that happens a lot when you're actually doing something to improve yourself, like having a morning routine or starting a business or saving money and not going out as much. Guilt comes externally all the time. But what I'm realizing more and more is I can't feel guilty about something that I'm doing with intention, something I chose to do. And so if I'm not able to do this thing because I was able to focus on what was important to me, because there is no shame attached to what I do and how I spend my time every day, that guilt just doesn't make a connection to me. And I don't know if that's I lack feelings in certain areas or whatever, but I just have been able to compartmentalize a little bit where I can observe someone's feelings if they think I'm not hearing them and say, okay, how do we fix the real problem here? Because it's not that I'm too invested in my career. That's not really the problem at the end of the day. But
Yeah, I mean, I think about that a lot as well. I think so much of what works for me is having the ability to have detachment with what you were just referring to, which is not having feelings. Like the whole business is business. I don't, while having deep empathy. I have enormous compassion. It's very easy for me to understand. But I have a complete ability to not allow somebody else to impose their feelings on how I should be feeling.
Yeah.
We live in a keyboard warrior culture. Like it's laughable to me that somebody who's never met me can have the energy to tell me how to live my life.
100%.
Like it doesn't even make, like, even in the way I articulated that, like, it's just common sense.
Right.
It's just like, but it leads to what is your framework. If you were brought up by parents that made you feel insecure, then it's likely that Johnny Pants 47 has a chance to make you insecure as well in a comment.
And not really even knowing what it sounds like for someone to blame you, and then for you to take that same habit forward and use a blame mentality and approach and making somebody feel bad.
I just came out of a really tough HR meeting where somebody went to HR that's upset with me about a decision I made that is 100% grounded in their entitlement and ego. And I want to punch something. Like seriously, like that, but like it's just really fascinating. Especially the reason I have some juice on this is because on top of which me bending triple backwards to make it awesome for them, hence why the entitlement happened. But that's the game. That's life.
That's the balance that
people hate accountability.
100%. The balance for me, learning as my business grows, is learning how to be a manager. And I'm like, whoa, this is a thing I did not sign up for. Right. And so there's that. And then there's like, okay, I want them to see it this way, but like, who am I to say the way they see things? So who am I to say that their ego is not a good enough argument?
You know what's funny is that I have so much passion to share. I have zero expectations of anybody consuming my content and acting on it. Zero. Every single person that has gotten benefit from it and has told me has been complete upside, added value. Zero expectations.
Yeah.
Back to who am I?
Yeah.
Yes, I understand that people are reacting to my content because I'm a good communicator and I'd like to think I have something of substance to say, but I don't expect it. There's a lot of things going on. There's plenty of things.
And I think the good communicators, or the people that are easy to sort of understand and grab onto, there's a level of extreme that has to be the case. Like clearly you exemplify extremity in some way. I have an extreme in different things that I do. You can't put somebody on every single pedestal. It's that extreme.
But there's different judgments for different extremes. I might be an extreme with my extroverted, communication style, and there's judgment to that. I get a lot of people as you know, that think I'm full of shit or a charlatan. Whereas somebody who's an extremely good articulator of words, writing a beautifully extreme LinkedIn article, does not get that judgment. Like, I'm always scared for people to try to replicate my style. The only thing that works for me is I'm incapable of not being myself.
You have the audacity to do it on video, with audio. Like I think there's a different emotional connection for an audience because it feels like you're talking to them on video. If you have achieved your goal as a video creator, it feels like you're sitting in the room with someone and you're saying that to their face.
And I think what's important is just like leaning into you. Like, let it be known, as a strategist for success, I wish my chemicals were 25% less over the top. There are people that immediately, within the first 40 seconds of their friend recommending them watching content, will click play, leave, DM their friend or text them and be like, what the fuck are you talking about that? I hate that dude.
Yeah.
If I could take 25% less juice out of my communication style, I would have more audience. It's not super complicated.
Oh, I don't know if I agree.
Because you're going to argue the counter, which I probably agree with as well, which is where I was about to go, but then you don't have the audience you have from your authenticity.
But not just that. Clearly, we see it in every capacity in politics and everything. Like, your ability to make people make a decision is where you end up getting even more traction.
Yeah. And to your point, if there was 25 less, if there's one less curse, or there was a really interesting conversation I had with a really nice guy on my Instagram 2 days ago, I think, or yesterday, where there's this moment where I'm helping this kid make a decision around doing what he loves versus what his mom wants. And in the moment, we're going back and forth, and I'm like, he's like, you're right. And I'm like, I know I'm right. And I'm transitioning to the next thing. And he took real issue, and he's like, I hate that about you. Like, you're so, like, for everything's so good. And when you come across condescending or high in yourself, I'm like, you completely missed the context. This is a kid in this exact moment that's trying to make a life decision, and me creating affirmation on his idea that, wait a minute, you might be right, is exactly what's needed in that moment. I don't need to say I'm right for my own ego. I'm quite confident in who I am. I don't need to tell some random kid, I know I'm right. That's not the moment where I'm going to pull out the ego card.
I think that's the segue to, let me tell you everything I feel like you should hear right now. You're taking it personal when I say
People
those
are literal.
words.
Literal.
Right.
He's taking it literal. I'm like, rewatch it.
Right.
Rewatch it. I know I'm right is to keep pushing him down a path to try to help him feel empowered.
Get further.
Not me trying to be braggadocious. I can be braggadocious a million more interesting ways.
Different ways.
Resi sold for hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars to Amex. Hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. Me and Ben Levithall came up with the idea over dinner. We incubated the company at VaynerMedia. I sat on the board. I was an instrumental player. I rarely mention it.
I was wondering
There's a lot
whatever
more I
happened
could be.
to it.
What happened to it? Amex bought it for hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. I have so much more interesting to be braggadocious about than me being right that his mom will be happy if he lives his life his way. People are very funny, very literal, really willing to take things out of context for the narrative they want to paint. Let's take some phone numbers. LinkedIn, Facebook, put up your phone numbers. JR here is going to do some calls. We'll do it. We want to get Amy to answer some questions. While John is dialing, how's the book doing?
It's great.
Yeah,
I mean,
you selling
like,
some?
Yeah, we've sold a few. Yeah, we've definitely sold some books. It's amazing because it's like I haven't had to create any content on Instagram lately.
Who's this?
Everybody's just posting.
Doing it for you? What?
Book.
Hello, this is Ethan.
Ethan, it's Gary Vaynerchuk, and you're on the Ask Gary V show with Amy.
Oh my God, Gary, dude. I've followed you my whole life, dude. This is
How old are you?
For real?
22, bro.
22.
Dude,
I mean,
I'm so fucking I've been an entrepreneur my whole life, dude. When I was in high school.
hold on. Ethan, real quick. Say hello to Amy.
No, it's fine. Ethan.
How are you?
I'm doing great. Please proceed with your story.
Okay, this is awesome. Anyways, I am a total entrepreneurial kid, dude. Started a lawn mowing business when I was little. I started a snow cone shack in high school.
Nice.
I came to college. I started a drinks and treats business in Salt Lake City. And all I do is work, dude. And I'm just been an entrepreneur my whole life. And you're just my hero, Gary. Thank you so much for everything, bro. Thank you so much, man.
You're welcome, Ethan. Do you have a question? Is there something Amy and I can answer?
Yeah, I do have a question. So I'm 22. I'm a bit younger, but I've built a pretty big business here in Salt Lake. Like I was saying, it's a drinks and treat shop, right? So what we sell is like soda and treats, cookies, cinnamon rolls, pretzels, things to go with it, right?
I understand.
Treats. And we do most of our business through the drive-thru. So we have a few locations. We do catering, and it's grown pretty. I've owned the business. I started it 4 years ago. I've owned the business for about 4 years. I've kind of built my personal brand on the back of my business's content. So we have a really popular Instagram page here in Salt Lake.
What's it called?
It's at Thirst Drinks. THIRSTDRINKS.
Okay.
Thirst Drinks. The business is called Thirst. Anyways, I'm always on there. Hey, what up? I call my audience. Honestly, dude, I ripped this from you because I started following you so long ago. I listen to your content so much. I started calling my audience the Thirsty Nation. So I called them. So I'm always on the stories every day, like, Thirsty Nation, what up? We got this product. Anyways, and I'm always at the shop working 24/7. So I've kind of built a personal brand, like, indirectly from my business.
Okay.
But I'm 20. I'm 22. I'm wondering how I can build a personal brand because to kind of, leverage this into the next thing that I do. I built my personal brand off of the back of my business's brand. But the problem is I struggle to put my finger on where I can put my personal content because I feel like I know a lot of shit. Like I've been working.
You're intuitive. You're intuitive. You're no different than I was at that. Like, so much of the reason that I've innovated and been unique is I didn't learn it It was intuitive. I did it. I saw that it worked. I talked about it. The answer to your question is very simple. There's a VaynerMedia Instagram page. There's a Wine Library Instagram page. There's an Empathy Wines Instagram page. There's also a Gary V Instagram page. You should put your personal content on your personal page. What you need to get, what you need.
You know, I know you're against, like, dude, and I hate. I'm like a brick and mortar retail business entrepreneur, a young one, real as I can get.
Okay.
But I know I'm not building a social media agency. You know, like I'm not like.
Okay.
You know how many fake entrepreneurs are putting out content about how, you know.
What's that got to do with you? Like why don't you have an Instagram page that you're putting out content on your page?
I do, but I struggle to put my finger on where.
No. Let's where what? Where to put the content?
No. What kind of content? Because
why don't you? No, you don't.
I'm documenting my journey.
No, you don't. You really don't have. Like, I can tell in these 3 minutes and 41 seconds that you do not have a problem figuring out what to post on it. You just have too much to say.
I don't want to be a dude. Like,
so don't.
My
hold on.
Yeah.
Why? What you think that people? Have you been affected by me saying that don't be a 22-year-old life coach? Are you like? Let me.
100%.
So let's chip.
Good.
So let's chip at it. People think that I'm a motivational speaker. I don't want to be. What's one of the ways to do that? By building an actual $200 million agency with 1,000 employees globally, to starting a speaking bureau that is actually good. And Amy still likes us because we send her to Saudi Arabia. Like, don't put out anything that isn't true.
Right.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
I feel like, how do I have the grounds of that? Because I haven't built, you know, anything like you, but like I've a $1 million business, you know, just a local retail business.
Talk about what happened today when the manager called out sick and you had to go there. I wish I made content when I was building Wine Library. There was real ass shit there. Just like, I would argue that my running hypothesis is your problem is that your account doesn't have any followers yet. And the humility needed after you've built up the business's following count to start yours now with no followers is a bridge that's a little bit difficult to cross right now.
I don't think so. But I also, on that point, dude, I have a tactic that kind of stems from your content that I think everyone's going to really like. I created an account called Ethan from Thirst. That's literally my username.
I see it.
And I go in and I engage with the community, my Thirst Drinks community. So when I post something, someone comments, instead of commenting back from Thirst account, I'll go in from Ethan from Thirst. Just from that little personal touch, just that extra authenticity, just so they know that the owner is caring.
I love that.
I'm really doing it.
So I believe it. I see it. Amy, did you have something to add while I'm looking?
I mean, like, my question is, we all know that documenting, creating content is a great idea, but at the same time, like, why do you want to build the personal brand? Like, you directly connected it to why Gary is doing it. He has an agency. All of these assets help him. But at the same time, I get it. If the personal brand is going to help you in some way you can't even fathom yet down the road, that's great. But if you know why you're going to talk to an audience on a different site, on a different platform, on a different account, you'll know who you're talking to a little bit better. Because it doesn't sound to me like you're talking to the Thirst audience, because that's why you would post on the Thirst account. Why are you posting on Ethan's account? Who are you talking to? Because the more you look at the camera like it's a person, the more it's going to feel like you're connecting with them, and you have to know who that person is really well in order to do that.
Right. I want to build up my brand because I guess I want the leverage for the next thing,
right.
you know? I feel like I've built a huge business as a pretty young kid, and I'm like, hey, this is cool. I want people to know about it so that I can go to the next thing.
I think that's, by the way, I think that's right. And looking at your account, my question is, what's the problem?
Just putting my content, like, should I share my tips and tricks, or should I only be documenting, you know?
Let's go back to that point. Thank you for that. Let's really.
I'm wondering. Do I share my, you know, knowledge that I feel like I have?
Why?
Do I kind of save it?
Why wouldn't you?
Because because of the out there, you know. Like,
how
do I define myself?
No. That makes no sense to me. Let's stay on this, Ethan. You wouldn't share tactics that you've used to build up your business because you're worried that somebody who's full of and makes pretend they're an entrepreneur will do what? Play with me here.
No, I don't care about them. I'm more worried about being. I don't want to be perceived as one of those. Just like just like you're talking about. All
But you're
these
but you're
bullshitters,
but
like,
you're
I'm not
but you're
that way.
you're putting out content now. Like I'm looking at your content. You have a post on your account of a screenshot where you text somebody about, you know, an increase of 50% in sales. I don't think you're worried about the part. I think you just might not actually want to share the information because you might think it's a competitive advantage.
No.
Okay. So then why wouldn't you
No.
share it?
I guess just because I'm in the mix of it. Like I go to the University of Utah. I see these guys like just, you know, like starting social media
Ethan,
marketing companies.
I'm wildly confused why you think that matters to you. I see them too. They all copy me every day. I think about them zero. Why are you thinking about them?
If it's a perception issue, is it because you only feel like you can post something when you have a hard metric to offer that can prove that you know what you're doing, and you don't feel like talking in hyperbole other times because it's like it could be perceived any which way?
Maybe
But
I
he's
just think
doing
the
it. But
fact
he's
that I am.
but you're doing it. But you post a 3-minute 9 video titled "It's not about the likes, comments, or followers," and then there's gonna be 3 minutes of you here talking into the mic. You're doing all the behavior. Like, you look like a huckster to me. The only thing that keeps you from not, I look like a huckster to people too, bro. The only thing that keeps one away from not being a huckster is not being a huckster.
Right.
It's permission.
That's maybe why I'm so defensive about it, because I'm like, dude, I built a real business, and I want to be like, I don't know if I could be associated with those people. I'm the real, like, you know.
You won't be associated with them. You built a business. You're not associated with them. Bro, everybody thinks I'm exactly like some of the people that are the worst hucksters of them all. There's nothing I can do about that. That's on them. If you're just worried about other people's opinions way too much.
Which is
Amy.
really funny to me, because if the why is that you want to leverage this in the future, that's based on other people's opinions. So I feel like you need to kind of draw the line. I think we talked about it a little bit before the call. If you're making this decision, if you don't have any shame in what you're doing, if you're a success at it and you want to show it to the world, it's very easy to let everyone's now opinions, you know, keep you from doing something. But the bandwagon, once it gets going, people will jump on board, but you gotta keep it
and
up.
Ethan, I have a news report for you. If you don't make content, the hucksters are going to keep making content.
All right.
So what are we doing
Right.
here? The fuck are you accomplishing?
We're building real businesses out here, man.
So build it. So let's go back to why you're asking. Amy, go ahead. So you want to say something?
So now it's like you don't want to look like everybody else that's a huckster and their ego, but you're using your ego as an excuse as to why you're not going to share it, because you're like, oh, I'm doing real business over here. I can't possibly make the time to talk about it, but you can because you know it's valuable because you're smarter than that. So it doesn't make sense.
I don't feel like I'm insecure. I mean, I've branded myself as this little soda shop boy that sells to moms coming to the drive-thru. I'm not worried about it that way. I guess in parallel, I'm asking, like, how do I do this too? Because I'm running a small business. I can't hire a D-Rock, you know, like.
You do
and I
you
know,
do it.
Like we all start small on the iPhone, but that's what I'm doing. But like,
but bro, let's just take a step
Not small
back.
anymore.
Like this is real life now. Like when I started doing Twitter in 2007, Wine Library was doing $50+ million in business. I was super busy, had 100 employees, and I did all my own social media, made content, and engaged with community. I just went to sleep at 3 o'clock in the morning because I was trying to win the whole fucking thing. Now, I don't recommend that for everybody. Like, not everybody wants that. Not everybody does that. Like, but it's doable. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. There's people running way bigger businesses than you at the same age who are making content. Like, it's not super, the question becomes, I think that there's some stuff that you have to get real with yourself on about it. You know, the truth is undefeated. So regardless of what I say or you say or we say or Amy says or they say in the comments, if you're a real entrepreneur and you build a real business, that's how it's going to play out. Right? B, I think you're especially if you're following me your whole life, 4 years, like, you know how valuable a personal brand can be for leverage. I think you're on the right track. I think that you might be better at being an entrepreneur than you are at being a content creator and communicator, or you're lacking patience, or you do overvalue judgment, or you'd like to see more traction and it's, you know, causing friction. All these things are real conversations, which are all fine.
Right.
You just have to
Get it.
listening to this, and when you watch these 13 minutes back, the complete unlock, because we asked all the right questions, is going to be where do you need to get real with yourself that you didn't get in this call? I promise you, Ethan, that is the answer.
Thank you so much, Gary. Dude,
Ethan, one thing that might help you is go back and look at all my tweets from 2007. It'll take you 15 minutes, but go back and find them. The team did this recently. I think one of the tweet they used in the content, I got 2 likes. No retweets, no comments, 2 likes. You know, some were none. Thank you, Dustin. Like,
Gary, you know what everyone asks me, because I'm yelling about text because that's just blowing up my business right now. Text marketing is.
Yep.
Do you know how it fits into a small business? Because it's kind of expensive, dude, for a small business. Like, it's costing me 5 cents a text to send these out. I know you're yelling about it. Do you know anything? Does your team know anything about how this can work for small businesses? Because I mean, if I have a 10,000 person text list, that's $500.
Yeah, but you haven't amortized out the value in return yet.
No, I see it, but I'm just wondering.
Well, real quick, you see it. How many? Ready? Let's be real. I think you're gonna like this. How many people are on the text platform right now?
I've about almost 11,000 texts.
Is it worth $500 a text for you?
A couple times a month, but it works so good. My customers love it so much. I'm trying to figure out.
Are you selling on it, or is it you using it as a service to them?
I'll use it as hey, this weekend we're gonna be baking fresh soft pretzels. We'd love to see you. Have a great weekend, and a picture of the pretzel or something like that.
Yeah. So I think 5 cents a text is too expensive from what I can recall in my head. Like, for example, actually, you're gonna love me right now. I'm literally gonna give you a real piece of data. There was a text we sent out. Let's see here. Just want to make sure I get this. Give me 40 seconds. Actually, will it be here? No. Give me 40 seconds. Amy, keep him occupied.
I mean, like, to me, it sounds like it's working great, and I'm curious to hear like what the issue is. It's expensive, absolutely, but if it's bringing you business, if you've seen a movable difference, are you seeing more than a $500 difference that weekend? Like,
dude, you think I was handing out free money when I send out these texts?
Ethan, send me an email. Send me an email to Gary at VaynerMedia. We sent out 9191 texts today. Cost us $248.72. So you might just be going with a service provider that's got a premium. So right there, we've saved you $250 a text.
Sounds like it's worth it.
I exported. This is for your following too, Gary, because I know a lot of them are small businesses. If you export your POS data, 90% of the time that has phone numbers in it.
Yeah.
And if you text those customers, they will come running back. I got that from you. I did it.
You better make sure that your compliance, though, like, you don't extract the numbers and text cold, because there's a lot of compliance issues with texting for everybody who's listening. So
we do not want to kill this industry already.
I think what you want to do there.
Well, what we do is a loyalty system.
Yep.
So if you want points back to get a free
drink.
Yeah.
If you make a promise up front that you're going to text, people are open to letting their text open. Ethan, rewatch this and deploy some true answers to yourself about it and go execute.
Thank you so much, Gary.
Bye-bye. Let's get another call in. That was fun. It's really interesting. I mean, I think, what's fun about that call is there's a lot of good ingredients there.
100%.
Right?
And he's 22.
It's amazing. And he's got it.
Yeah.
Like, he built a fucking business already. A real one. A real one.
He's hitting the ground running. It's so easy to get tripped up by opinions, especially this young in life. But in general, he's probably
I just think he wants to build up a much bigger social media platform, but he doesn't want to be a douchebag. Hello?
This is Calvin.
Calvin, this is Gary.
What's up?
Calvin, this is Gary
What's
Vayner.
up, Amy? What's up, Gary?
Hello.
How are you, Calvin?
Doing well. Good to be back on the show.
Thanks, Calvin.
So, Gary, I asked you on episode 202 about celebrating, and I think Amy asked you something around it once too about like how do you get the energy back after doing something big. Both of you guys are up to really big things.
Calvin is on it.
Time of year we have so many people about to set New Year's resolutions.
Yes.
And aiming bigger. And I'm just curious for both of you, Amy and Gary, like, first of all, what are you celebrating right now to end 2019? And more importantly, how are your sights now set on 2020? Like, how do you goal set? How do you vision set? Like, what's going on?
You first, Amy.
I mean, I'm excited about my new book. That's pretty much my 2019. I mean, like the end of a decade. This is our heyday at AMYTV. Like January, new year, new me. It's a new decade. Like we're just gonna have so much fun with that. But you also can't get so engrossed in that. It's very easy to have New Year's resolutions. It's a totally different thing to execute and to actually stick with something. A habit isn't a habit because you called it a habit. It's a habit because it becomes habitual. So I think that's a lot of what's in front of me. I mean, like, is helping people understand that they actually have the time to do the things that they want to do if they care about it that much. And Gary, you've talked about this ad nauseum. How late are you watching Netflix at night? What could you be doing? By the way, it's very easy to get 7 hours of sleep if you want to wake up early and do the thing that you want to do. And I have such a totally different perspective. I think about where I was 10 years ago. It's probably when I discovered Gary, read Crush It in 2009. Totally different place in my life. I've had tragedy happen. I've had beautiful things happen. I've had high of highs happen. I just wrote my second book, which is really weird. I'm very excited to be able to take what I've learned especially in the last couple of years into the next stage of my life, because I think it's the best place that my headspace could be right now, to be realistic about the fact that we're so lucky to breathe every day.
Yeah. There is no micro event, resi selling or Vayner being positioned for a big year, or a sneaker deal, a car deal, a wine company. Like there's no micro event, even family stuff, kids getting older, family time, even that I call a micro event. I don't celebrate because I'm always celebrating. I don't celebrate micro. I truly celebrate macro. I'm literally one of these people. It's funny. I'm not religious, but I'm definitely spiritual. Like I literally wake up and I'm like,
you have not talked about this enough, Gary. I just have to say.
Yeah, I agree with
you. The spiritual side and things like that.
Because you know what's funny? I'm trying to find different angles to say the same thing because I'm hoping to use something, even the way you're reacting. Calvin, you're on your shit if you knew 202 and you knew Amy asked me that question, so you're consuming and you have context. And you're right. I don't know if I've ever even used spiritual. I think maybe one other time if I'm like kind of feeling it. The reason I'm saying that is I don't think people hear me. I really mean it when I say that I woke up this morning and I was like, phew, no phone call in the middle of the night that I have to run to the hospital. Phew. Yeah. I'm super pumped I'm not in heaven right now because that brain hemorrhage overnight would have pissed me off. I have a ton to do. I don't celebrate because I'm actually celebrating. And it's kind of how I think about meditating, and it's how I kind of think about balance. Like I've got some gear inside of me that has a deep perspective that puts me in such a good place that I'm celebrating everything and nothing, and that's that. Like, I don't know, like everything's fun.
The thing is with you that's so interesting is what's so interesting about you though is a lot of people get that from something. Usually they get that from their religion. Maybe they found some other guru or they read something. You haven't done any of that shit.
I found it within myself. Yeah. You know what's funny? Yeah. I've been thinking about lately this thought. Was I so deep? I cried so much from 1 to 8. From 0 to 8, Gary Vaynerchuk cried every day. I was so emotional. My new hypothesis is the following. I am so empathetic. And when I say crying, when I was sad, when my mom was sad, when I saw somebody else was sad, when watching a movie, TV, I didn't like the way that person got picked on in first grade, I cry. Like literally, this is a scene in my head right now. I know what it is. A kid got picked on in class, I see it, I just start crying. My belief is that I might be so empathetic.
You like people a lot.
That I think I started building a reverse behavior of detachment to even get through. By being so empathetic, I created some sort of thing within myself that made me go the complete other way to make life palpable. And I practiced it so hard, and that I probably was naturally born so empathetic, and that my counter reaction was to detach myself from those feelings, that I'm now playing at such a bridge of, I don't give a fuck. I care about everybody.
This is what I've always been confused about with you, because I feel like I operate at very similar levels than you all the time, but I am 100% introverted. I know how to be on when I need to be on. I love connecting with people in a conversation. I don't need to look at my phone.
I would argue I have introverted characteristics. I'm wildly good at being by myself.
That's why I'm like, you're both. You're 100% both.
And I'm real extreme on both too. Like
Crazy.
I think I recognize that in you too. And like and it's not better or worse. I think you might be here and I might be here. Mm-hmm. And in that is even something, because I definitely know what happens in between this and this. That's my theory right now. I think I got it from within myself out of a correction of maybe being too feelings oriented early on. And then I think it became patterns and building and building and building. I'm telling you, I couldn't explain to everybody here enough of how much crying I did in the first 5 to 8 years of my life. I was constantly crying. I cried every time I lost in anything until I was like 15. It's weird when you're 13 with your buddies, you lose in like, you know, like in like Nintendo football, and you're like crying and like punching wall. Like I'm hyper on emotionally. And I think to get through, I created
you learned that it didn't do anything, it sounds like.
Yeah, or like it was exhausting.
Yeah,
right?
It's like okay, so
you know,
we're still doing that.
It's funny that when you just said
anything.
that, like I went into a place of like, no, I think it was exhausting.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I am who I am.
So to tie that to goal setting.
Yes.
You mentioned.
I want to be the number one person on earth. I don't give a if nothing happens.
That's awesome.
That's it.
So you're in that good balance. So when you have a new year, so you have this big macro thing of someday buying the New York Jets.
Yes.
And there's that. And then you're in the trenches every day.
That's a front for me just to keep playing forever.
It's so easy to latch on to. It's not the thing.
It's like, the least thing. The thing is the process of trying. And then
it's like, here's why I'm still going, guys.
I get
still
that.
don't own the Jets.
So here's my question. My question is, with a new year coming up, I know you usually take time off at the end of the year. Are you actually planning and making goals for 2020? Or are you just like, what's coming on Monday?
No, that's right. But I may plan the next 15 years on an insight that I pick up on March 16th, walking down to my car at 6:03 p.m. during a rainstorm, and might say, wait a minute, I'm in complete and utter motion at all times. I'm in strategy all the time. I don't sit down and write out it on paper and say, oh, these last 3 years. And by the way, that's my strength and my weakness. I just still think I'm early. I eat my own advice. I believe at 44 years old that I'm not in panic mode on my great ambitions.
Love it. How about you, Amy?
I mean, like I look at my goals every single day, and they matter. They matter to me. I'm rewriting them every day. But at the same time, I feel like they're my version of the Jets. Like I enjoy everything I'm doing on a daily basis. If my goals change in a couple of days or a couple of weeks, a couple of months, it doesn't completely rock my world because I know I'm constantly moving forward. I think the problem becomes if you become so much of a goal person, a resolutions person, but you're never actually hitting any marks. That can be troubling. That can be difficult. But I feel very much on the same page as Gary that it's like these are helping me to make sure I stay on point with my why. They're helping me to not get distracted by whatever I saw on Instagram that looks cool. Like, okay, cool. That's my new goal. No, it's not. It's somebody else's, and it's okay to be happy for them. But having something that I know drives me to focus on keeps me focused every day. So I'm not getting into the nitty gritty and all the dramas of the day. But then really, I'm happy to take everything in stride the way that it goes.
Because that's life.
It is.
Like
I can't change that.
Crying about the fact that you took on college debt because now you listen to me and you're like, he's right. Like,
so now what?
There's no time machine. Like, can we just go there once and for all? There is no time machine. You're not going into a time machine. And every second you dwell about something that has already happened or completely out of your control is a second you're not using on the solution.
And also the news is just like loving that you're sitting on this because they're like, hey, we might forgive all student debt. We might, and you could qualify. I'm not sitting here waiting to see how that works out for somebody. It's like, you've got to make that change on your own. And maybe if something good happens along the way, it's because you were working so hard at it on the day-to-day.
Wiping out somebody's mistake is the quickest way to make sure they make it again.
They do not learn.
Last question to Amy, if I can.
Please.
Sure.
Okay, so Amy, first of all, congratulations for being a part of Vayner Speakers. That's freaking rad.
Thank you.
My question is for some of us new guys that are just up and comers. What advice would you give, or how to get signed with something like Vayner Speakers to turn up? I mean, I've been doing a little bit of public speaking for the last couple of years, but I want to turn it up like a lot. And so I'm just curious what advice you would have to either be signed with an agency like Vayner Speakers, or just what would you do to do more speaking?
Getting signed with an agency was never really on my radar. I think I knew that there was something like that would be advantageous to that, but never in my wildest dreams did I think, oh, it's going to be my buddy Gary that starts an agency. And then, so I have two answers. A, get a significant other that will tweet Gary and be like, why isn't Amy on your speaking roster? Because shout out to Vinny.
The first rule is to not annoy Gary. Okay?
Honestly,
Calvin.
I'm sorry to interrupt, because I actually like the way you communicate. So I actually think you've got a shot here. Whatever great advice Amy's about to give, I just really want you to know the answer is content.
Calvin, when I wanted to take speaking seriously, I did. I in 2015, I was like, if anyone allows me to speak from an application or asks me to speak, I'm going to pay whatever it takes to get there.
That's right.
I went to the Philippines.
Yeah.
I went to Manchester, UK. I went everywhere. And I spoke on 15, 16, 17 stages that year. I spent a lot of money in travel, but I got experience. And then what happens? People watch you on YouTube for whatever reason. They think you can talk to 1,000 people in an audience when you're sitting alone in a bedroom talking to a camera, but it still worked out. Content in that capacity, plus actually getting out and getting experience. And then everybody was like, you got to write a book. So that helped.
I have that piece down where I have experience. I've got to be on some fun stages. Spoke in Salt Lake City last year with Mel Robbins, Tom Bilyeu, Jay Shetty, and a few others.
Good.
But it's just not that much.
Well,
like it's
go.
certainly hasn't been 15.
Do you email? I emailed every single tech conference when I was doing Wine Library TV.
No.
I emailed every single tech conference that I could get on a Google alert, and emailed them and asked them if they would have me to speak.
Okay, so don't annoy you, but go ahead and just go reach out to everybody else, and that's the way to get in.
Or annoy me. The game is about asking.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, like,
Good point.
There's not going to be one clear-cut way. The loudest person still wins a lot of the time. Like, if they are consistent, if they're persistent, and the one thing that I've always had is I've had staying power. Like, for me, if I'm just talking about me at this point, I have been producing content for 10 years. I have stuck around. It's not been, when are you going to give up on YouTube? I'm not giving up on YouTube until they give up on the world. Like, I'm just going to keep doing what I know how to do in the best capacity that I know how. I promise you, especially now where everybody's talking about how, what's the word? Not super busy, super crazy. The amount of content that's out there is just, it's a lot. It's saturated. And that's a great excuse, but it's also kind of true. But if you hang tight on what your thing is and you're the best at it and you just keep staying there and you're the last guy standing, at the end of the day, like, someone's going to discover you. If nothing else,
or you might suck at it. I paint every day. I don't know.
That's fair.
My intuition is like, I'll be decent. Like, I ended up being great at speaking. Like, but Calvin, I think you need to put more reps in. You have to go take it. Bothering an agent, like, here's where everybody makes a mistake. Vayner Speakers, CAA, William Morris, please sign me so you do the work for me and it's easy.
Yeah.
What you need to do.
I think go ahead.
What you need to do is you need to email every single conference. All of them.
Yeah.
Do you need another speaker?
Yeah.
Do you need another speaker? Do you need another speaker? Everybody wants.
Do you need somebody to introduce your speakers?
Yeah, like, just
do anything.
It's work. It takes years and years and years. Everyone, like, just so funny with, like, obviously both of you know this, and now I'm looking at your photo, so I know exactly who we're talking to. Like, Calvin, you know this. Amy knows this. I've been doing this for a long, 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 long time. Like, now it seems like all your friends, like, now people really do know me. Like, I've definitely taken that next step in the last 24 to 36 months. But both of you knew I was a big deal in our little circle, right? But, like, they're all different steps. And before that, I wasn't a big deal in that little circle. And I was a wine retailer. Watching
you go on the Tonight Show and do wine feels like a nostalgic moment we're all reflecting on from a former life. It's not like, oh, he's on Fallon. It's like, oh, he's doing this again.
Yeah.
Like,
everybody kept wondering, who's hosting this? Is this Jimmy Fallon's show or Gary's show?
You want to hear something? Calvin, you want to hear something really, really funny? They cut it out. but we're doing the skit.
Oh no.
Yeah, it was really funny to that point. We're doing the skit, and I see the producers say 1 more minute, and I go, and Jimmy's like doing something. I'm like, Jimmy, like let's hurry up here. We got about 30 seconds. And he just like turns to me and goes, the hell, this is my show. And they took it out. I thought they were going to keep it. It was even worse than you think. They edited it to the best of their abilities. I mean, look, when I see the producers, I just know. Speaking of which, we got to get the fuck out of here. Calvin, love you. See ya. Bye. Amy, thank you so much. Everybody's watching. Please support this wonderful woman who I think has a lot of perspectives that I obviously resonate with. And more importantly, just like there was a single piece of content that was the 87th time you heard me say it, but in that way it broke through. My intuition is for a far majority of you that I've not been able to break through or paint the picture. Maybe this book does. And so I assume it's super, I'm sure it's under $20. I hope. How much is this thing?
It's $19.99.
That was so fun. Support Amy's book. It would mean a lot to me. That would be your Christmas present to me. So see ya. Thank you, Amy.
Thanks so much to Gary for having me on the show. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that little peek into an interview with me and a conversation with his audience and how he ticks and how we could start problem solving for people together. You know, this makes me want a call-in show, by the way. I've been talking to Vin about this. Like, how do we come up with the tech for me to do a call-in show? And then the thing Clubhouse came out and I was like, well, maybe we should just use Clubhouse. Something to think about. What do you think about that? What if we did a little detail therapy on Clubhouse and did a quote unquote call-in question show? Let me know what you think about that. Head over to @DetailsPodcast on Instagram. Let me know on our latest post. Big shout out to everyone who has gone over to Apple Podcasts and left a 5-star review of the show. You have no idea how much that supports the work and lifts us up and brings new people into this world so that they can continue to go after the life they want. Today's shout out goes out to OG Cat City. OG Cat City, consistently being encouraged by this show. I appreciate all your kind words in your 5-star review. We have something special for you if you send us a note with your deets at hello@detailspodcast.com. That's all for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it as always. Remember, subscribe for good vibes, kiss the ones you love, and go after the life you want. I'll see you back here next Tuesday. Cheers.